So we just covered Kamala Harris being protested over the genocide in Gaza at a Michigan event. Here's Donald Trump at a Michigan event receiving the endorsement from some community Muslims. Ryan Grimm tweets, surreal. Democrats are losing the Muslim vote to the Muslim ban guy. Also, they could keep sending weapons to a country flagrantly ignoring our gentle request to please slow down on the starving and slaughtering. Yep, that sounds about right. And here they are.
Good afternoon, Michiganders. As the president said, we just had a positive meeting with President Trump. We as Muslims stand with President Trump because he promises peace. He promises peace, not war. We are supporting Donald Trump because he promised to end war in the Middle East and Ukraine.
Well,
the bloodshed has to stop all over the world.
That would end it.
And I think this man can make that happen.
Okay, so that goes on for a while. We don't have to play the whole thing. You get the picture. Now, look, folks, I don't agree with this endorsement. But I think the significance of this is that you see Trump's strategy down the home stretch to expand his base, to expand his reach. We know that he has pretty much eaten Kamala's lunch on the Latino vote. Most recent polls show him beating Kamala outright amongst Latinos. I think certain missteps led him to underperform with black voters relative to what he could have done, but he's still doing better amongst black voters than any Republican in a long time. Kamala is cratering among young people and among Arab voters. So what is Trump doing? He's going and trying to expand demographically his base. Kamala's doing the exact opposite. Kamala's closing pitch is exclusively to never Trump Republican types. That's why she's touring around with Liz Cheney in Michigan. That was not missed by Donald Trump. So Laura Loomer tweets out, watch, speaking in Michigan, President Trump said Kamala's campaigning with Muslim-hating warmonger Liz Cheney. Here he is.
Is campaigning with Muslim-hating warmonger Liz Cheney, who wants to invade practically every Muslim country on the planet. And let me tell you, the Muslims of our country, they see it
and
they
saying
know
it
it
properly, too.
Yes.
Her father was responsible for invading the Middle East, killing millions of Arabs, millions. And this is the one that Kamala is campaigning with. And I know Cheney very well. She lost by the biggest margin in the history of the United States Congress. She lost by almost 40 points. No sitting congressperson has ever lost by even close to that amount. And now she's a primary
I can't imagine that's true.
endorser. You know, it's going to be very interesting on some of our basic issues. See if you can put those two together. They're just trying to win. They'll do anything to win, but that ain't going to work, that combination. But she's a warmonger.
So you have the Muslims coming up here endorsing Trump. Like I said, you know, I can't really square the circle of Trump saying Biden's trying to hold Benjamin Netanyahu back when he should be doing the opposite, right? Like I said, we are post-duopoly on this show. I'm telling people to vote for Jill Stein wherever they are. Swing state, safe state, doesn't matter. So I think Abandon Harris has this right. I think if you are anti-war and anti-genocide, you have to be very disciplined not to vote for pro-genocide candidates, which Trump is, despite what they said there in the last video. But this, to me, is significant in what it says about the two campaign strategies in October. Trump is a closer. Trump is a closer. The guy does well under pressure.
ABC. Always be closing.
He gets his shit together under pressure. He seems to understand when the stakes are high and he can't fuck up. This reminds me a lot of 2016 when he was fighting with the Gold Star family, the Khan family, after the DNC, and they were cratering out in the polls, down by 13 points nationwide. And his inner circle said, we have to right the ship or we're going to embarrass ourselves. They got rid of Paul Manafort. They brought in Steve Bannon, and they righted the ship, and they won.
Kellyanne Conway.
And Kellyanne Conway, absolutely. She was very good on that campaign also. It seems like that Haitian migrant thing was a turning point. It seemed like that was when they realized, wait a minute, we're actually going to blow the most winnable election this century.
Cheese
if we
it, guys.
don't
We're
make a change.
freaking out the squares.
Exactly. We're freaking out the squares. And they made a change. And now, I mean, Donald Trump going and calling someone a Muslim hater. I mean, like I said, the guy signed a Muslim ban. He said, he was asked in 2016, what do you think about Islam? I think Islam hates us. So given all of that, he comes out, and during the final days of the campaign, he sees a weakness. He sees Kamala's weakness. He sees she's tanking with Muslim voters. He says, God damn it, whatever I said in the past, I'm going to go and I'm going to get some of those votes. And here he goes. And this is why I think this is a big part of why the betting markets have broken in Trump's favor recently, is because he's closing well, and she's doing the opposite. She's getting protests. She's getting heckled by Muslims at her events, and he's getting endorsements from Muslims at his events. I mean, who would see this? Like, it's amazing. Who would see that coming? Who would bet on that a year ago? If you said in October, I mean, post-October 7th, you could kind of see it coming. But if you go back, a year ago, a year and a half ago, okay, in the closing months of the 2024 campaign, the Democrats going to get heckled by Muslims, and Donald Trump's going to be getting endorsed by Muslims on stage in October, a week before the election. You'd have never seen that coming.
Well, actually, if you go back to the early days of the show, I predicted that the vision that a lot of the liberal class was trying to push at that time, that it was everybody and heteronormative white people,
right,
was absurd, and that the contradictions of that understanding of the world were going to eat that movement alive eventually. And one of the things I would often point out is, Muslims tend to be culturally conservative.
Yes.
So in the end, it's not that I don't think, God bless you, go out there, fight against the Muslim ban, but I always felt that that was a very uneasy marriage. And that a lot of the liberals who were going out and fighting against the Muslim ban had this very Pollyanna-ish vision of the world where everyone has common interests against the heteronormative white people, and you all have common interests. Greg Foreman on Black Conservative Perspective was pointing this out. He's absolutely right, and I've long said this. Culturally, the Muslims don't belong with the Democrats. Culturally, the Republicans are a much better fit for them.
The Muslim mayor in Michigan who endorsed Trump, one of his big issues as a mayor was campaigning against the LGBT pride flag.
Of course.
And so
there you have
it.
No, you're going to go. Well, we actually did that as a segment way back where I think it was Dearborn, where the white Christian parents and the Muslim parents were getting together about wanting to take these books out of the school. Yep. Not Toni Morrison, like, this book is gay. And the one of the fathers, he was giving a speech, he said, I wouldn't care if the book was called This Book is Straight. A book that gives instructions on how to meet people online does not belong in a school.
Right.
And they were making common cause. And we made that point at the time. Like, hey, man, what if you think that because they're not white people, they align with that agenda, that all the LGBTQ, the black, the brown, they're all on one side, and the white heteronormative people are. It was such a facile way to understand how the world works. And this is an example, I think, of it coming apart. This genocide in real time is the thing that triggered it. But in the end, that could very easily lead to a long-term realignment because culturally they never really belonged with that party. They were with that party because here you have Trump talking about Muslim bans, And here you have the other party speaking
And you had the
against it.
Cheneys,
So,
who were Republicans, who
Right.
instigated the Iraq
Right.
War, but now the Cheneys are going around with Kamala Harris.
Exactly.
In Michigan. Michigan.
So why would they not go to the Republicans?
Right. Exactly, yeah. Yep, exactly. I mean, that is just, I mean, you talk about closing strong versus coming apart at the seams when it matters most. You got Kamala Harris going to fuck you. Michigan, you're underwater with Arabs already in Michigan. You take Liz Cheney to Michigan?
Liz, of all people.
Yeah.
Well, and that really shows you they are just doubling and tripling down on the Chuck Schumer strategy, which failed in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
They're just going to try it again. For every blue-collar worker we lose, we pick up 2 in the suburbs. They're going for that.
The
And
only
white
votes they're
people, they
courting
won't
now
say
are the
it.
Republican votes. Yeah.
They want the white people in the suburbs because they disproportionately vote, and there are more of them than any particular minority bloc.
They are campaigning exclusively for the white conservative vote now. Not just whites, but white conservatives. They're campaigning for Republicans. They have not made an appeal to anyone but Republicans since. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, the Nicole Wallace vote. That's what they're trying to get.
Yep. To the exclusion of everyone else. Like, they're actually going out of their way to insult Muslims by bringing Liz Cheney to Michigan, to the point where Donald Trump has an opening to actually get endorsements from Muslims in the home stretch of the campaign. Really, really amazing. Just an amazing election.
World, baby.
Yep, absolutely.
Please clap.